Or abuse, perhaps the most difficult thing to do is find that strength, that inner strength to tell their story. Our next guest did just that. Sarah Klein, you know her face. She's been with us before. She's an attorney and she's an advocate for victims of sexual abuse. Now, she's also a former competitive gymnast. She was one of the victims of former Olympic women's gymnastics doctor, now convicted sex offender Larry Nassar. She was the first woman to tell her story, which encouraged other women to come forward. When the news broke that Bill Cosby was being released on a technicality, I think it's safe to say that sexual assault victims felt like they'd been punched in the gut. Now many are wondering if his release will discourage other victims of sexual assault from coming forward. Sarah joins me now, and Sarah, I'm really glad to have you here. First of all, let's take you back to the moment when you got the news that we all did, that Cosby was being released. Tell me your reaction as an attorney. Tell me your reaction as a survivor.
Absolutely. So as a survivor, it's absolutely sort of triggering, re-traumatizing. It feels like the bad guy won in this scenario. But when you look at this, the legal aspect of it, and you look at this, I hesitate to even call it a technicality, you're sitting there going, wait, what? There was this water cooler sort of oral agreement thing that happened, and that's why this man is free. It's a bit confusing. I know that survivors are struggling right now. It's hard to have faith in a system that asks people to bear their wounds and feel like their stories are negated. But this does not invalidate the truth that Bill Cosby is a serial rapist, and that's how he's going to be remembered.
Are you also, as an advocate, are you concerned that this will mute survivors, that this will paralyze survivors from coming forward for reporting their abusers, for reporting to authorities the crimes that committed against them?
You know, I've thought a lot about that, but to people considering coming forward, I want to reiterate the justice system did work for a period of time in this case. We had District Attorney Kevin Steele. He had the courage to prosecute this case, and he was found guilty, right? So I want survivors to remember that her voice was enough until this bizarre legal technicality occurred, but she got her day in court. That can never be taken away from her. And Bill Cosby might be free, but he is not exonerated, right? He is still guilty of a crime. He just happens to not be behind bars right now. So I think it's important survivors recognize that the fact that he was a rapist did not get overturned. He did get held accountable by a court of law for some period of time.
So what can be done, right? Because obviously the system, well, if you ask his team, the system worked. If you ask survivors and victims of sexual assault that haven't had their day in court, the system failed them. But I think we could argue that there's something that is flawed here in the system. What needs to be done to reconcile this, do you think?
Yeah, well, what we see is that laws are pro-perpetrator. They are not written to be pro-survivor. We're getting better in that way, but we still have these bizarre, archaic statutes of limitations that preclude survivors to have access to the courts after some period of time. We know that the average age of reporting sexual abuse is around 52 years old. And there are plenty of psychological reasons for that. The shame, embarrassment, people turn to drug addiction, depression, anxiety. So by the time you find your footing, oftentimes the laws don't protect you. You have no recourse. And so what we can do is we can start saying, how are these laws designed and who are they designed to protect and we can work to get them changed. And that's something I'm doing state to state,
Yeah.
is getting statutes extended so that survivors get all the time that they need to come forward.
We understand that this is likely going to not end here. His team, he has already threatened to sue. What do you anticipate happening? Do you think he has a case?
You know what? Only a narcissistic serial rapist would believe still that they are the victim. And that's what I want survivors not to go down that dark hole, not to give him the power. He doesn't like that he's going to be remembered as a serial rapist instead of TV's favorite dad, right? And so that to me is grasping at straws. I don't think there's anything there, but it is true to narcissistic form to attempt to rehabilitate the damage to your brand and reputation after something like this. But again, he is not exonerated. He was let out of prison. He is a free man, but he is not an exonerated man. And I think survivors need to sleep a little bit easier, recognizing that he did not get away with this.
And you can sleep a little easier knowing that Sarah Klein is on the job. She's an attorney for a law firm that specializes in representing sexual abuse survivors. And we use that word survivors, not victims, because that's what you are, my dear. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for being available to us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Have a good 4th of July.
You too.
All right.